And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because, oh man, there's just so much shit against. Yeah, I mean, there is an expression when the defecation hits the ventilation, and brother, there's a lot of torque in that fan these days. Part of this is also to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I had to kind of make sure that I hit all the right pieces because last week I screwed up the intro just a little bit and that was all on me and it's bugged me all week. I am your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble. You can find me pretty much everywhere under that name. That's Shujin. Hi. Go ahead and introduce you to everybody. It's not as many as I'd like, but you know what? It's better than just me. Trust me, it's for the best that way. From the Midwest of the U.S., where, I was going to make some kind of a uterine joke, but I don't think it's so much a joke right now. Brigid Fitch, good evening.
Yeah, good evening from the Republic of Gilead.
Yeah, and funny enough, my opening is actually going to be kind of touching a little bit on part of that, so you be aware about that. And then off to the right-hand coast, where it's almost hurricane season again. UnrenownedTech, hi, welcome back. Good evening, good morning.
Hi there, and I just want to say that I am reading, pre-reading, the Horrible Scopes, and dude, you're an ass.
Yes, yes, I am.
I'm going to enjoy this.
Yeah, yeah. Fortunately enough, when they were read last night for the radio stream,
Yeah.
I had at least one person who got it. And I was very, very, very warmed deep in the cockles of my heart for that. So
I know who these are, but I don't know how they talk.
don't worry about it. You'll pick it up as we go along. Don't worry.
The
It's all
sound
good.
effects
It's
speak for themselves.
don't go leading a bit over here. Anyway, hi everybody. It's good to be back with you. So for those of you that are listening in for whatever reason, you could have been joining us and helped out with all the stuff because down over in this section of the screen for you, oh yeah, over on YouTube, there's a spot right over there. I'm using my finger to point to it. Yes, I know, I'm Italian. I talk with my fingers, but it's not the finger that you think it is. Stephanie, good morning. Hope that you're doing okay. And Felix, you made it. Hi. You didn't burn yourself on anything, right? I mean, this week, right? Because I didn't check on anything on that one. Anyway, hi. So yeah, it's been. We were talking about stuff before we got started with the show. Stuff that we're not going to necessarily be talking about directly tonight, but I think it's probably really worth it if we just spend just a minute, maybe a minute and a half. We are very much aware of all the stuff that was going on this week down in Florida with the former guy and everything. There's a lot to unpack. We are not versed enough to be able to unpack nearly enough of it. Plus, I mean, let's
It would
face it,
take us 3 hours.
it would at the very minimum. And we don't know all the ins and outs. We were, like I said, we were kind of talking a little bit about it before. But in my situation, knowing full well that I don't even know enough to be dangerous when it comes to all this like secretive shit, I'm massively pissed. And I actually went looking to double check. To the best of my knowledge, there is still a constitutionally written in provision for the death penalty.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind because those of you that want to go back to like 1980, oh shit, what year was it? It was 80. What year did that come out? That was 89, I think, when Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire came out. Rosenberg's H-bomb
Be before then because I graduated in '85 and that song was out, I think, when I was still in high school, but let me Google it.
Maybe I'm thinking of the River of Dreams album then. Thinking of the wrong one. In any case, yeah, so it's fair for me to say that I've been like exceptionally pissed about this thing. Tech, anything that you want to briefly mention as far as to how your overall feeling has been about the news about all that shit?
Um, Mine is
What's
being
wrong?
tempered by the fact that we don't have a released statement yet of the discovery of the material. Granted, it is classified material. There might be material in there where the name of the material itself is even classified. Yes, that does actually happen,
Yeah,
folks.
Yeah,
that's
Um,
true.
yeah,
That's
but
true.
we
there
heard
might
about
be
that.
a generalized label that can be used in their statement, and I'm waiting to hear what all that is
We may never
before
find
I.
out.
Yeah, we may never find out because
Yeah,
it may be that I mean
it may be
they
that secretive.
speculated. Yeah, if something really is in the top secret, the TS/SCI label classification stuff,
I
we
know
may
how that
never
works.
even find out a title. It may just be general. It may just be whatever's on the report is top secret stuff, such and such level, and that's it. That may be the only thing that makes it into the general public's level. And while we may think that's unfair, it's quite possible that just the title alone is something that we're trying to keep from our adversaries. So if we publicize it, it doesn't do us any good.
Yeah,
Well, we
it's
might want to save this until after Shujin does his intro, so we'll have something left to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah to a certain degree. And
But
Stephanie, thanks.
I was just trying to emphasize that I'm waiting to hear the results before I react.
Fair enough. And like I was saying, Stephanie, thank you for that heads up. From way in the future in Paris, France, Joseph, good morning. You made it. Hi, how are you?
Okay, and you, sir?
Dude, okay.
I hope I'm not.
You're a, you're quite on the low side volume wise at the moment, but we can work around that momentarily.
Yeah, I'll try to adjust that.
Okay.
Wait a second.
See, this is what happens when you get all kinds of free programs that you work with. You never quite know what's going to happen some days. So we'll see what happens with all that. Anyhow, yeah, I was trying to figure out where I was going to go with that. Okay, uh, yeah, you see what you got, and we'll kind of come back from all that. But in the meantime, I'll at least get the opening done, and then if I need to screw around with audio settings on my side, I'll go ahead and I'll do my thing. So, with 5 minutes on the clock, your 5 minute freestyle starts now. Irony. Now, I had one of those situations because driving around recently. Myself and the little one, who is going to be going back to college, which is, you know, double-edged sword. It's very cool that he's, continuing his studies. It's a little annoying that I'm going to be, by myself again, but you know what? It's all good. I had a thought. That came up, and it had everything to do with all of this Gilead crap going on, all the Roe versus Wade fallout that's been going on, the whole thing about abortion and reproductive rights here in the United States, and anybody that has not been paying attention to it, yeah, it's been an absolute shit show. It's hard to put too fine a point on that. There's some states where it's okay. There's some states where it's just like, that you got to be a little bit careful. And then there's other states. So here's the problem that I've run into. I actually have an argument for both, and and not in different situations, but for simultaneously enforcing pregnancy, wait for me, just please, just wait for me, and institutionalized D&C, abortion. So let me explain, because I know that at this point, people got to be thinking to themselves, no, I have not been drinking anything other than coffee today, so here it is. We know that this system could be abused, but for those who are below legal age, and in most of our country, the age of majority is effectively 18 years. Some places it's younger, but it's typically accepted to be 18. But as far as to the age of consent for sexual intercourse, that gets to be a little bit more of a question mark. You see, so here's the question mark problem that I've run into. What if abortion is relegated specifically and exclusively to getting the genetic information of the man who impregnated someone? It doesn't take very long for the impregnation to happen. It could take a little bit of time, obviously, and it's an uncomfortable idea to have that happening. But as a way of being able to say, I am 13 years old and someone had sex with me. Okay, let's get all the information and we will check you in a couple of days. And we will do a professional, institutionalized procedure to remove this product so that we can get DNA off of it, so that we can then prosecute the person that did this to you. It's one of those things where, yeah, there is something to be said for this concept, and yeah, it's a terrifying one, and yeah, it's a crap fest to have to think about something like that. But, you know, if some group wants to go ahead and say, thou shalt not have abortion, period, well, you know what? If law enforcement is able to institutionalize it so that they can get more people into jail because they love to get people into jail, I wonder which group would win out in the end. This is episode, where's it over here? 417 on the docket, Your Honor. Hail Hydra. The old standing thing has been, if you cut off the head of an organization, the body dies. That doesn't exactly work with a cult. And again, with various cults, there is also the whole Hydra example, which is typically if you cut off one head, two come back. Okay, well, there's a problem with that after a certain point. But the problem that we seem to have now with the cults, and I'm thinking very specifically about the neo-Nazis and such, it's that it's not about a cult of personality to a single person. It's that the leader of the group is everyone in the group in their own heads. And the only way of killing that type of Hydra is to change that mind one way or another. And I have a very, very weird fear that that's something that's kind of outside the scope of anything that we can really do in a single generation.
Oh yeah, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a long time.
So,
Because the other side's mentality, and this is not an exaggeration, because I've heard this before with previous election years, is, well, I can change their mind if I fire a bullet through it. And the reason why I use a Southern accent is because the person who said it had a Southern accent. And several other people have said similar things across that lines, also had Southern accents. I'm not saying all Southerners do it, but there was definitely a prolific amount of Southerners with the same freaking sentiment.
yeah.
Now, are there Northerners who say that too? Probably. Are they on both sides? Maybe. But I don't tend to hear it so much on one side as I do on the other.
Yeah, so this is going to prove to be a very weird and very likely uncomfortable topic. But then again, when has that ever stopped us? We're not looking for the answer. We just want to kind of explore the question and try to figure out, do we have anything to really worry about for ourselves as we go ahead?
Well, the people down south have never gotten past the war of northern aggression, you see.
Yeah, that's a whole other piece. But meanwhile, let's see what we can do. Joseph, you're still muted at the moment. Let's see how your audio level is at this point, and I'll see if I have to screw around with anything. So say a little something for me. I'm assuming that maybe you turned your volume completely off at this point, because I'm getting
He
nothing.
may have gone for coffee.
No. Just turned off the mute. Okay, so you muted. And maybe nothing? There's going to be one of those moments where it's, free programs, guys. This is what happens, man. We can't afford to do anything more than, tin cans and string.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, we'll give them a couple of moments and see how that plays out, because we can at least get the horrible scopes started and see where it takes us. You are unmuted. You gonna try again?
Yep.
Here you go.
There you are.
Still on the low side?
You are, but don't do anything because I can fix that. Let me just...
on my OnePlus, I can't seem to find the audio input.
That's okay, because I've got you taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. There we go. Okay. So we can get it started at this point. So, and Felis, you missed out on this last night. It is time for the horrible scopes. So, for those of you that know your astrological sign, cool. If you don't, pick a D12, ask Google to help you out with that one. And it's not really going to help you, because last week, somebody asked for, the Muppets, which was fine. For this week, somebody went ahead and asked for them to be Pokemon themed. I mean, okay. The problem is there's like 900 plus Pokemon creatures now. So, we're just sticking to the first generation, because screw y'all.
Yeah.
There's actually, as of June, 905 Pokemon.
Like I said, over 900.
Yep. 8 generations of Pokemon.
So, hold on to your master balls. Let's get to battling. Aries, you are Charmander. Char.
Taurus, you're a Poliwag. Polly. Polly, Ollie, Ollie, Polly.
Gemini, I am so sorry. Pikachu! Pikachu! Pikachu!
Uh,
Pikachu.
Cancer Moonchild. Me.
It makes you wonder if Butterfree was a seagull in a past life.
No, because seagulls are assholes.
Broken abilities.
Which is different from Canada geese, because Canada geese, they're not assholes. They're just sadists.
They want to kill you.
Yeah.
Sadist psychopaths.
Yeah, in a bad way. Leo, you are Chansey. Chansey. CC. Chansey.
Virgo, you are Scyther. Scyther.
Libra? Yeah, you're Paris. Paris.
Your accent is perfect. Thank you.
Scorpio. Mouth. I should see this before I do this. You value hard work, even where it doesn't necessarily pan out. Being a good friend and loyal personality means you've surrounded yourself with people who share your values, even if they aren't as capable as you'd like. This week, when your inept friends arrive to help you with a problem, be gracious and accept them without thinking you're superior, even if you are.
Part of me sad that Joe showed up, because if he hadn't, that would have been my line.
Sagittarius, you are Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff. Jiggle, 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 puff. Jiggle, jiggle, jiggly. Puff. I'm a little pitchy on that one, I'm sorry.
Capricorn, you're Jengar. Is that right?
Gengar.
Gengar.
Gengar. Gengar.
Aquarius, we are Venusar. Venusar. Dude.
Joe?
And the last one, what is it? It's Could you read the title for me?
That's literally it.
Yeah, okay. But yeah. I already closed the window.
Oh.
But I remembered my line.
Pisces, you're missing no.
Number.
There you go.
Yeah, but it shows up as missing no on the game cartridge.
And those are your horoscopes for this week.
Yeah.
So remember, if you like what you got, you're a freak. And you can blame somebody who shall remain nameless, and this technically qualifies as an entire 0 for the horrible scopes. I will have these posted at the end of the week when I work on the next one. So, you'll find them Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, all the happy stuff as usual. So you can look that up for later. And like I said, there was somebody that actually got the joke last night during the show. And
for Pisces, right?
No.
Which one?
For Meowth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was very, very happy for that.
Didn't he hang out with Team Rocket?
Yep.
And
Blasting off again.
And if you read it off all over again, you realize Oh shit! Yeah, that is exactly what poor Beowulf. So that's the extent of the happy fun for the night. And I say that because I have no coffee. And not going to have any coffee because I have no coffee creamer. It's
How
worse
could, how could you let that happen?
because I'm going to be out tomorrow. So I'll be able to pick up some. But it's even worse because I don't have powdered coffee creamer because I love myself a little bit too much for that. And I do have milk in the house, but it's 2% milk, which means it's like
Ew.
pouring water into it, so why even bother?
No.
The best I'd be able to do would be to take what little ice cream I've got and put that in it. So
It might work if it's vanilla. I mean, maybe.
it's not. It's chocolate based, and I've got hot chocolate mix. So I mean, I don't know. Figure it out. So anyway, so yeah, so this whole thing about cults and leadership, I mean, like I said, the traditional thing has been if you cut off the head, the body follows. And we've seen this used in the United States with groups like, ISIS, which it doesn't quite work out that way. You've still got people that come into power even after what's the word that I'm looking for? Unalived somebody. And then you've got nicer ways of dealing with it. For instance, Peter Popoff back in the 70s, who was a massive, massive evangelical, uh, you know, um,
Fraud?
faith healing fraud. Yeah, who when the Amazing Randy checked him out and finally realized, oh yeah, he's got a radio receiver and he's getting fed information so that it seems like he's getting divine
He was getting it
information.
from his wife.
Yeah. Now, technically, there is something kind of magical about using electromagnetic waves to transmit information. There is something pretty cool about that, but it's not exactly magic per se, because we can manipulate that. Although you think about it, if you were able to manipulate magic, that's still not exactly magic the way that we think about it. Whatever. But he was taken down, and yet he has come back to bilk people out of money again and again and again. But like I said, the problem with the cult of personality with these neo-Nazis, there's and I am putting a lot of emphasis specifically on that area. I could easily switch this over to being political, especially in a lot of different areas, my country included, as we know all too sadly. But even if, and think about this a second, even if the former guy were to have an aneurysm and drop dead, could somebody check the news reports just to make sure that there isn't a thing while we're on the air that I didn't accidentally make that happen, because I need plausible deniability that I'm here and not in Florida. Thanks, appreciate it.
It's not turning on Twitter, so.
Well, it's a start. Not a start. Not. Our nice friends over there at Echelon. Hi, I'm here. I'm a nobody. Please. But even if he were to suddenly just disappear through whatever completely naturalistic items, because he's the pinnacle of health, the stuff that he has been peddling and the social movement that he has been at the figurehead of. I I use that expression because, I mean, come on, look at him. He's washed out as if he were the front end of a ship. It wouldn't go away. Not by a long shot. Because each and every one of these people believes that they are the commander of this movement in their own little separate piece.
These people cannot spell.
No, they can't. I heard you.
These people cannot spell.
Yep.
Do you know what that says?
Oh,
FBI is assho. H-O-E.
I can't go pulling up that image without screwing up my video, but oh my god. That's just...
Yeah, they spelled it A-S-S-H-O-E. And I thought Get a Brain Morans was bad. M-O-R-A-N-S.
Lotters will be shot?
Yes.
It's that kind of level of thing. You know,
Leonard does not care.
yeah. Joseph, I want to ask you a question about that. It's not very specifically about politics or this cult thing, but there seem, well, like she's pointed out, man, there is something about these people that have a very, very high Venn diagram overlap with a lack of education, I guess is probably the nicest way of putting it.
Lack of autonomous thought.
Well, not even that. Not even that.
Spell.
But I mean,
They mispronounce words. It's a word salad.
it is. But I want to hit you specifically on this one because your education growing up in Canada was, if not on par, better than a lot of stuff that we get over here in the U.S.
How do you know that?
Well, because you know where France is, where I have a big question mark for a lot of folks that I would have grown up with. That they could find Great Britain, they could find Italy because a lot of families came from Italy. They can figure out Sicily. They could figure out the country of Africa. I know. Just go with me on that one a second. But, you guys in Canada did not have nearly the same level of, and for lack of a better way of putting it, whitewashing history than what we got. So I really have to wonder, how do you look at these people that are in the news that are absolutely... it's like we've got an entire country of Florida man,
Yeah. I don't know what you want me to say.
Well, I want your...
You're not... Well, the dumbing down is, it's been to... It's, let's just say we're in extremes now in the U.S.
That is fair.
Between peach tree dishes and TCH for hot hemp. What was it? Ulterior Motors, and I was like, what?
Okay, all right. Wait a second. Remind me, where is she actually from?
The Ulterior Motors is Bobert, aka Bobo.
No,
she's from Colorado.
No,
and Peachtree Dishes is Marjorie Three Names from Georgia.
Okay. I thought so, and that's why I wanted to get confirmation on that one, because having done computer stuff for a long time, I'm selling computer software at one time back in the 90s. You know, back when you got an actual, box with a manual and everything inside of it and floppy disks that, you take the box and you everything in Georgia is Peachtree something. And there is even, I don't know if it still exists, the Peachtree software, accounting software, if I remember right. God, it's been fucking forever.
Yes.
God, it was 95, 6, and 7 when I was selling that stuff. Oh, good Christ.
I still get tickled though, and people still come after Marjorie Trader Green for she was, trying to make a reference to the Gestapo and called them the Gazpacho.
Oh, God. That,
Gazpacho?
Yes.
Yum, yum.
Soup.
Oh, in this heat, that'll be perfect.
yeah, I was going to make some kind of a joke about her IQ being about the same temperature as Gazpacho, but, whatever.
That would be mean.
You'd be accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I'm calling her a smooth-brained personality.
But it's just horrifying that people that uneducated, that know nothing about how government works or the Constitution or common words are in government. That is terrifying.
You'd think these people never watched Schoolhouse Rock, you know?
They probably haven't.
God, that's sad.
Oh, but they don't need to know anything because whoever their leader, provider, whoever they're following does it all for them. So,
and that's why I'm thinking in a lot of ways, because for them, that leader, never mind the provider part for a second, the leader part is their own personal id. And so long as they follow along with whatever that unrestrained id is, they can do no wrong. So everybody else is an idiot. I'm perfectly fine.
But the person that they're following right now came up with Cove Fifi and Hamburger and all sorts of really weird stuff.
My God, the level.
Yosemite.
The level of ineptitude that simply pulled out of that person, I absolutely do not understand. I simply cannot fathom that level of. There was a scene from Star Trek The Next Generation where Commander Riker was convinced that he had been pushed into the future and had lost his memory. And he's on the Enterprise, and Geordi, the chief engineer, has apparently been running a level 1 diagnostic on the computer system in the Enterprise for 4 hours. And Riker, finally realizing that shit's wrong, went ahead and yelled at him, "Mr. LaForge, you are not capable of that level of incompetence." I have never forgotten that line. I have never forgotten that line since it was first uttered. But there is simply no bottom to the level of embarrassment that these people have and the absolute lack of self-awareness about it. Because for them, like I said, so long as their id is satisfied for whatever bullshit ideas it is that they've gotten there that I need to have because the only way for me to have is for everybody else not to. I mean, really, what the hell? I just.
I cannot believe this.
Oh, please tell me you've got more poor spelling choices.
No, Rand Paul is calling for
You could stop at Rand Paul.
Yeah, you could have.
Well, he's calling for repealing the Espionage Act.
What?
Yeah. He
I know the
tweeted
guy
this.
was dumb, but
He
I didn't realize he
tweeted
was that
this.
dumb.
Yes, he tweeted this. I'm gonna copy pasta from his tweet, but I'm looking at his tweet right now.
I'm sorry. That right there says that he's not fit to do any public service whatsoever.
Could you do me a big favor and give me the actual link to the tweet
Link
so I
to
can
it?
put it in? Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Sure.
We'll put it in. We'll put it in the chat so that everybody can see it, and I'll make sure that it's in the notes because, oh my God.
Yeah, told you.
Here you go. That's just.
Is that not terrifying?
Yeah, go ahead and read it off.
It says the Espionage Act was abused from the beginning to jail dissenters of World War I. It is long past time to repeal this egregious affront to the First Amendment, repeal the Espionage Act, the Future of Freedom Foundation.
You know?
Abuse how? And exactly what is the Espionage Act?
Oh, it's being abused because Adolf Hitler is being accused of espionage, which is not a minor thing.
Okay, so the short version of the Espionage Act, which was made in the early 1900s, which was made shortly after we entered World War I, and has been amended multiple times after there. It was originally designed to prohibit interference with military operations and or military recruitment, restrict and prevent insubordination while in the military, because you don't want to disrupt the chains of command, and to prevent the support of any enemies to the United States during wartime. So if we were in war with Russia, any support towards Russia could be punished under the Espionage Act. And that's what it was originally for. Okay, there have been amendments. Things are supposed to change over time. And to give you an idea of some people that have actually been hit with charges for this, Julian Assange from WikiLeaks, right? Chelsea Manning, the whistleblower. Manning, I don't care what side of the fence you are with Manning. Manning was military at the time of the whistleblow, and there was a clear chain of command that Manning skipped. Then Edward Snowden, he got punished too. He ran off with NSA material and released it to the general public. So could Trump be punished under the Espionage Act? He ran off with classified material. If there was intent to give it to enemies of the United States, or if it was found that it could be material that could be used to harm our allies by our enemies, dude, there's some. Yeah, he could see time. He could see real time.
So wait a second. If the act is repealed, then Trump would get off, but Snowden would go free too, right?
Yeah, that's called wishful thinking.
Yeah, well, you get my
because
gist.
this is the United States of America.
Yeah, but the machination is sound. You're right.
Right. What they would probably do is they would repeal it in such a way as that they would either amend it so that it no longer affects the president.
Yeah, which is bullshit.
Or anybody in any presidential capacity, which, just like you said, is complete and utter bullshit. But if I was on the Trump side, that's maybe what I would go for. Because if I was on the if I was a Trumpster, I wouldn't want other people on the other side of that equation who had been punished by under the Espionage Act to go free. I would try to limit it to just Trump and maybe a couple of Trump's lackeys and supporters that may have also been hit in the what do they call it? The blast radius, I guess.
Yeah, the problem that we've got though is that
They're all dicks.
another problem
Sorry.
we've got is that we know full well that it's not going to be just the single person, because there are machinations that this mob boss has done too damned many times, where it's, oh, would you go ahead and get me this thing, or it'd be really great if I would have this thing, and somebody that would bring it to me, I'd really like to be, close, warm, personal pals with them, and then suddenly, whoa, look at this, whatever it is, it's just kind of fallen in his lap. So I didn't do anything. People around me did stuff, people who like get me coffee, because that's all I know. But to kind of go along with that, though, like I said, the Espionage Act, that kind of gets very, very, very really close to when the United States Constitution was written, or about roughly and signed off on, roughly 10 years after the War of Independence. And I'm saying roughly because we don't need to narrow it down any further than that. There was only one statute that was written into the Constitution by the framers that carried the death penalty at the federal level. And that was for treason. It is entirely possible, the way that I've been looking at this, and I'm a layperson who, honest and truly, probably doesn't know enough to figure this out, but I have real questions in my head as to whether or not this is going to eke into treason. And if that's the case, to say that we live in interesting times completely puts to shame every other event in recorded history for this country.
Well, I don't think it's quite to the level of treason because we're not actively at war with anyone.
However, that there are pieces where it could be very much of the how do we word this? Does it have to be? Does it have to be an actual declared and voted upon aggressive war for that to qualify?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but I think so. But definitely committed espionage, definitely did incitement to insurrection.
Yeah.
He, participated in an attempted coup d'etat. And some of this, classified stuff that he had is only supposed to be seen in, a secure location. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm wondering, how did he get it out? How is that possible?
Like I said, I could almost
Can't stick them in your pants.
No.
I mean, how? Somebody had to help him.
Yeah, and that's exactly the kind of thing that I'm thinking probably ended up happening. He intimated that he wanted to be able to do so that he was free and clear. He didn't give the word, go out there and oh God, I can't believe I'm going to say this. He didn't tell somebody to go out there and kill Brutsy, but it'd be really nice if Brutsy wasn't head of a family these days. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Probably
but
went ahead and got somebody to just do it by just suggesting it'd be a really nice thing, because plausible deniability.
I don't know. I'm just upset that there was that attack on the FBI building in Cincinnati. Yeah, it didn't really get anywhere except for the guy got dead. But there's, the GQP at this point, they're calling for more violence against the FBI and the feds and the cops and the CIA and the judges.
And 2 FBI agents were listed on the
They were
forms.
doxxed.
Yep, they essentially got doxxed, and now the Trumpists are sending death threats.
Yeah.
It's like, you know who I wouldn't want to send death threats to?
Federal agents.
It just me in person. If I had to send death threats, there would definitely be groups that I wouldn't want to send death threats to, using common sense, and that would be like any form of law enforcement.
Yeah, especially groups like,
dumbasses.
The FBI, because the FBI has a very good tendency of being able to track information down.
Oh, yeah.
And as you and I both know, in the information age, what's the old standard?
All is known.
It's just a question of where.
It would be exponentially easier to track the Unabomber in today's
day,
oh
my God,
than it was back when we were actually tracking the Unabomber.
Or the Son of Sam.
Exactly. Because we have actually reduced, for an analogy, which is hilarious, the irony of making an analog analogy.
I got you.
We have actually gotten rid of a lot of the analog in favor of the digital. And the digital is so much easier to track.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, especially when people are dumb enough to put shit on Facebook.
Or anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere.
Yeah.
And you've got people on Twitter and people on Reddit that are really good at figuring out who these people are. It's called crowdsourcing.
Yeah, Reddit's a special kind of breed of animal.
It is.
You really don't want to piss off Reddit.
There is that.
No.
And as an alternative, by the way, I have seen where there have been people at protests who have participated in protests in various different ways, where because photos or video were taken, the t-shirts were identified and found out where they were being sold, and a tattoo was identified and traced in order to find somebody of interest, quote unquote. Sorry, scare quotes. Heretic Woman would be wanting to slap me upside the back of the head for that one. And people have been saying, if you go to a protest, don't take pictures. Don't help their cases.
If you want to go to a protest, don't even take your own cell phones.
That's right.
Leave them at home.
Oops.
Oh, is that the guy who was crying about
Rigor Morris?
No, there was a video of one guy who was actually in tears standing out Mar-a-Lago about what they were doing to Trump.
This is not the guy that was crying. He was, I think the word he was looking for was rigmarole, but he said rigor mortis.
Rigor mortis is
No, he didn't say mortis. He said morse, rigor morse, as an
Oh yeah, that's that old retired version of Morse code, rigor morse.
No, you're thinking of the cat food commercials. Rigor mortis.
Yeah, I saw pictures of Morris floating around, and I saw a couple of doctors go, "Is there an ICD-10 code for that?" And I'm like, I don't think so. There's one for accident tripping over a turtle. That does exist. Yeah. I'm dead serious.
We believe you.
Okay. Okay. Wait a minute. Okay. Wait a minute. Wait. Is is there a specific code for someone who has had an involuntary amputation of a finger or portion thereof by a snapping turtle?
Not specifically by a snapping turtle, it would say by animal, but there are specific codes that would list which finger. They're so specific.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, if somebody would have come in and said that, they had their finger removed by an animal, you want to make sure that it was, a finger as opposed to, like a thumb, because you don't want to have somebody trying to put their wedding band on their thumb in the middle
Well,
of
it'll say like, animal bite, left hand, fourth digit, or something like that. It's really specific. Well,
Okay.
ICD-9 had about 10,000 codes in it, and ICD-10 has 38,000.
Okay.
But the doctors were having a good time with that. They're like, how would you even code that? And I was like, yeah, you can't use, 789.0 as a dump code anymore. I was like, I don't know.
How would you code that? Very, very, very carefully, because I would be laughing too hard. I would double click keys like crazy.
Well, for rigor mortis, I was like, I don't know. Maybe one of the F codes for like psychological delusions or something. I don't know. But yeah, we had fun with that.
No argument there.
And we were trying to guess, well, what modifier would you put on there? And I'm like, you'd put a 25 and then you upcode that sucker to 99215 because you'd be in there for a long time trying to figure out what the hell he's talking about.
There's a very, very, very specific segment of the population that has any clue what we're talking about.
What I
right
just
now.
said.
It's perfectly understood. If you're feeling a little bit lost right now, that's okay. I'm going to bring it all back on this track now.
Yeah, it's a CPT code. And you can do a 99215 if it's an established patient, or if it's a new patient, 99205, which is like those are the highest levels that you can get reimbursement for. And it's based on like how much time.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of How the Codes Are Keyed with your fingering mistress, Brigid Finch.
Brigid Finch.
Yeah, show us how to finger those keys, would you
No,
please?
no. We don't have time for that. We've only got another hour. We don't have time enough for that bullshit. So let's bring it back onto the avenue.
Oh, the super duper classified stuff that he stole. The maximum penalty for those is like 10 to 20 for each document.
He's in such great shape. He could just run those concurrently, right?
Well, the unfortunate thing is I don't think he will go to prison. I think what they would do is home confinement.
No.
I mean, realistically.
No, and I'm gonna
What?
go out, so I'm gonna say it.
Secret
Fuck that
Service
noise.
in there with him in prison. That's not fair to the Secret Service.
They signed up for the job. You never know where the job is going to take you.
Well, that's true, but
You signed up to take a bullet, and if the bullet happens to be a shank, well,
I wish they'd put him in Gen Pop. That would never happen.
Yeah, I know.
But wouldn't that be fun?
See,
I'm a horrible person, okay?
You're not nearly as horrible as I am on this one, I think. Because I'm also looking at... I'm very much looking at it from the standpoint of he needs to be made an example of.
Oh yeah, because if this does not qualify
The
as
Republicans won't allow it.
They have to.
if this is not considered,
Well,
high crimes, what is?
yeah.
No. What they want to do is they want to make sure that they get all his supporters and that he feels he's been justly protected. There's going to be a little bit of, oh, I'm suffering in this way, that way, and the other thing, but they'll find a way to compensate him for that. By them, I mean the Republican Party. Just so that they can continue to get endorsements so that they can keep getting his crowd. Just the same way as they keep saying that they're Christians to get the evangelical and fundamentalist vote. They will cater to the general public that likes and loves and adores Trump to the point of where they think he's the second coming of God.
But Boebert and Three Names, they're pushing for Christian nationalism. If they get that and they're going strictly by patriarchy, they're not supposed to govern over men and they're supposed to
You're
keep their
using
mouths shut.
logic and reasoning. When has religion ever used logic and reasoning?
Well, there have been people that have run for office that believe in removing women's right to vote that are women, and I'm like, what's wrong with you?
They drink the Kool-Aid.
I'm sorry. I have to answer the question. When did logic and reasoning ever work in religion? When you figured out how to use an FM discriminator in Peter Popoff's ear to pick up the radio waves that were coming from his wife's radio transmitter, because that's a very specific piece of circuitry that design.
I mean, the position is they want women at home homeschooling the kids. They don't want them in the workplace.
Keep them dumb.
If you're pregnant, there's a lot of employers that will not hire you because they don't want to have to cover maternity leave, and they don't want people to have maternity leave either.
I mean, it's real simple. The women need to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. The kids should only be learning the Bible. And even then, they might take that away, the ability to read. That may only be for the rich at some point.
Or the males.
If they want to really regress it. Well, no, even there were males that that were peasants. The peasants were not allowed to learn how to read.
No, they weren't, but I'm thinking Gilead, Handmaid's Tale. The men could read, the women were not allowed to, or else they would have fingers cut off and stuff.
But well, I mean,
who's studying medieval history, is there any evidence to the fact that they forbade people to read? It would seem so, because even the
they had laws that were written down on scrolls and stuff. What you would call decrees back then. Certain kingdoms and such would decree that the peasants were forbade from how to read.
Well, they're
going back to when.
Well, let me kind of backtrack this one a little bit. As I recall, the first version of the Bible printed in localized language was in Germany with the Gutenberg press in the, check me on this one, 1600s, I think. Might have been 15, but I think 1600s. As I recall, and my memory on this one is really sketchy, but if I remember it correctly, it was something that was done outside, extra legally, for lack of a better way of putting it, because the local people were disallowed from learning to read, and the Bible was continuously printed in Latin, and the people were allowed to read the Latin, but not actually be fluent in Latin in any way, shape, or form. And
vernacular, if you will.
Well, sort of, kind of the same way that we've heard reports where children have been pushed to read the Quran to memorize it, but not actually know what it is that they're parroting back. And
no, because most of the time, most of the most people don't speak Arabic.
right,
And the Quran's written exclusively in Arabic, and they're forced to memorize it in Arabic, but they actually don't understand what's being said.
right,
And
exactly.
Gutenberg, that's the 1400s.
And Stephanie's giving me some info.
Yeah.
Well, Stephanie was also pointing out the general population would worship him if he was in with them, but that's past that point. Peasants could read, some could even write. That doesn't totally surprise me. Okay, but is also pointing out, no Shujin, Bibles were available in native languages long before that. Books were handwritten, not printed. Like I said, my memory on
The
that is
Bible,
hazy, so I guess I've got some relearning to do on that one.
well, actually, the Bale Council, which was in the early 15th century, it was the first time that they were considering allowing native language versions of the Bible. That which was what allowed Gutenberg to print his first work.
Okay. And Stephanie has also pointed it was the 10th century Reformation that brought in the normality of Latin Bibles, celibate priests, etc. I almost read that as celebrated. Almost. Almost. I didn't. Oh, and it's also pointed out. Sorry, early medieval period is my hobby. You know what? Good.
Who said that?
That's Stephanie over there in the chat.
Now, some of these people seem like they're a couple of sandwiches short of a picnic.
Ya think?
Yep. Where the lights are on, but nobody's home.
I really don't understand it.
I don't know. I mean, they're called the Sedition Caucus for a reason.
And after all the times that we've seen people get thrown under a bus by whomever, and it goes farther out than just, the political scene. And people just, for whatever reason, they just completely ignore the history of it all. Oh, my state's perfectly fine. You know what? It doesn't matter that we don't have enough money because, I mean, we can always sell our teeth. They're always falling out anyway. I mean, who cares?
And to come back to the medieval history part, there was a crusade in the 13th century against southeast France. It was a crusade against the Cathars.
Oh.
And the Cathars, part of the reason that they were declared heretic is that they were actually promoting the translation of the Bible into, well, bastardized French, whatever you call it, the langue de Wa, which would be the French language of southeastern France.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Creole, but okay.
No, no, yeah, that's another form of French. But this is the 13th century, and even then, 9th century Charlemagne tried to translate certain parts of the Bible to promote. There's a wave of evangelism at the time, and he, with the Pope, authorized translations of certain passages of the Bible. It's kind of like for advertising purposes. But that's it. But the Bible itself was never completely translated until for the Council of Bale. Check that, okay?
Stephanie, get on that. I know it's early in the morning and I don't have any coffee to get you, but just
Google faster, Stephanie.
and in all seriousness, thank you for humoring us and no dumbasses here. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm not a history buff.
Yeah, I've been kind of immersed in this since I came here to France. So much fucking history here.
And of course, everything changes. So apparently, I was taught older style mentality, and we have updated material that I'm not caught up on. Which hey, that's life.
Oh, it's been around, but the change is that it's more available now.
Yeah, it's
I can't even keep up with the country name changes. I mean,
You know what's really funny? Just on a side note, the churches always they love to rewrite history, and I got into an argument with this is going back to the beginnings of Facebook, but I got into an argument with a Southern Baptist preacher who was saying, "Oh yeah, I'm the authority and all this," and like it was a discussion about marriage, and he, like everybody, that's the propaganda would have believed today, that the church marriage always belonged to the church. Well, actually, no, dumbwit. It wasn't before the Council of Latran, I think the second. There wasn't even the church wouldn't touch anything to do with marriage or celibacy before the 11th century. They only began there was like a huge reform, almost like an ad campaign, I guess. They were relooking the corporation. In the 13th between the 10th and the 13th century, where the church completely relooked itself, rethought that, and that's actually when they compiled. They finished compiling the Bible. So, like, basically, the Christianity we have now is post 12th century Christianity.
And it's only just barely changed ever since.
Yeah, because the Renaissance came, and the Renaissance was asking for change, and the Christian leaders, instead of, they stopped their reforms and dug in. And that's when they became staunchly conservative. And that's why it hasn't moved since.
That's one of the things that's kind of problematic to me. That over the history of humanity, there have been such amazing strides in social awareness, in the scientific endeavor, and then there are other troughs where it's just so incredibly regressive and just not even a funhouse mirror of how things were before, where it's just stop learning new things, do as we tell you, and keep it that way, and don't move ahead of me.
Before, we had no means to fact check these people.
Not easily, you're
basically,
right.
And our sources of information were limited. So, if somebody's bringing us news from the outside world, we have no way of, checking up on whatever they're saying. So we have a tendency to believe them. But nowadays, we can, if somebody's going to make a claim, we can hold them accountable. We have every means we need to.
Yep, we've got the ability of fact checking literally anything and everything, from the safety of our toilet seat if we wanted to.
Yeah, but you still have things like the Flat Earth Society that still exist, and I don't get it.
All right. Well, let's be sure about this one. It's not that they still exist. They're a very, very recent redevelopment. once upon a time, back, before ancient Greece had sticks, apparently, and could tell time, the idea that the planet was flat was easily debunked with a couple of sticks and being able to tell
Yeah.
time and do geometry. Because, geometry is a Greek term. I'm going with that and I'm sticking with it. Leave me alone. These are people that are just, I don't know. I don't know why. But again, they choose not to be wrong. And so long as, like I said, as long as they're following their id and it's not hurt its fifis, they can just keep doing whatever the hell it is that they're doing, which is holding conventions for themselves. God, this is creepy. Well, at least nobody is actually cosplaying as a flat Earth, so I guess that's good.
No, you got all these militia people that cosplay being in the military. Ugh.
Meal Team 6.
Yep.
Oh, God. But you're right, there is that.
And it's like, dude, you would never even make it through basic training or boot camp, depending on which branch you go into. You'd wash out.
And that would also include things like, the Coast Guard, for instance, because, oh my God, the Coast Guard, what you bastards do, I can't even understand that. They are the bravest sons of bitches I could ever imagine. I mean, just as a real quick, the idea of going out in hurricane force winds in a helicopter, close enough to the water that you do have a serious risk of ending up in the drink, so that you could rescue people that got caught out there, and they're in the 2, 3, 4 meter swells, and they're going down because boats are not usually designed to withstand 50 feet of water floating back and forth at you. These guys are nuts. These guys are absolutely nuts.
OMG.
Found out about Rushdie?
Oh, well, I mean, I knew about that. I mean, as far as I know, he's not dead.
No.
But
No, they
there's
took him
a
off the
group
ventilator.
of armed Trump supporters outside the Phoenix FBI office.
I'm telling you, it's a cult.
Yeah.
Cult of personality.
Yes, and by the way, somebody explained to me. The one guy that went after one of the FBI headquarters, shot into it, was armed with an actual, weapon of warfare rifle, decided
Yes.
instead to use, explain this to me, a nail gun, according to reports. Is that accurate? And
Yes.
why the frick would you do something like that?
Well, we'd ask him.
Because it was bulletproof glass. That's why.
So the nail's obviously going to get through it, right?
It's the cheese that slid off his cracker.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Nope.
So their intent was to go up to this bullet-resistant glass, take a nail gun, push it right up against the window, pull the trigger, and then realize, oh shit, I need an air pack on my back in order to power this thing. Hang on a second, I'll be right back. And expecting that it's going to just go just push like a window on a Peugeot. Really?
His cunning plan had a flaw.
That would be himself.
Mm-hmm. He did not think that all the way through.
People who do that kind of shit don't usually think.
True.
There is that. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to pronounce this correctly. Stephanie was also pointing out, by the way, Joseph's 9th century Reformation took a century to reach England. Well, I mean, come on foot. It's not like they had the Channel to work with. I know nobody calls it the Channel anymore. Leave me alone. I'm an old man. Powered by the, now, do I pronounce this correctly? The Cistercians? Cistercians?
Cistercians?
I think so.
Yeah, but it's it's kind of like an antenna. I don't know what to call it. Cistercian abbeys. Yeah. Well, they were evangelists.
Okay.
But Charlemagne's Reformation. At the time, most priests couldn't read or write, and actually, he wanted to educate the public, and he even came up with an alphabet for that. But it never got much further than the clergy. He confided the education of the public to the clergy, but the clergy never got past educating themselves, which they did even badly. But they call that the 9th century Renaissance, or the Charlemagne Renaissance, whatever.
Well, see, yet again, more stuff I either didn't remember or wasn't taught. And considering the time that I grew up and where, there's a very good part of it was just probably just wasn't taught.
Yeah, that's the thing with history, because when I can spout out all the factoids I want, but as long as you don't have the context, it has to be delivered with the context.
And
just getting a grasp of how things really were back then. I can't tell you the tons of documents I've been through, and I'm over, 20 years, and I'm just starting to get an idea now of the way things were back then.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Why? Like, if you look at an object or something, and you try to figure out why would somebody make that, what was the purpose of this object? That requires the context. Because from a modern point of view, we may look at something and say, oh yeah, it's for that. But then going back to the times and coming to the same conclusion, you wouldn't come to the same conclusion.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Like I was saying, the problem that the time and the place that I grew up, there has been so much elitism for the American public in the realm of historical education that it's hard to understand things like. Let me give you a perfect example. Back in the 50s, there was the domino theory that if one country fell to communism, quickly others would. And at that point, the United States would be behind the ball and would no longer be a superpower to contend with in order to second guess the Soviet Union. I'm reminding everybody, this was in the days when it was the Soviet Union, not Russia as we know it today. And because of that and the disastrousness of that doctrine, we lost so many people, young people especially, for no good reason other than paranoia, because of the whole Cold War thing going on between the US and the Soviet Union. There was Laos, there was Korea, there was Vietnam. Who only knows how many other locations that maybe we never heard about. But were these things ever covered in school the way that they deserved? I probably ended up learning more about how horrible war was from watching MASH in the 70s, which was 20 years removed, if that, from Korea. Like I said, if even that. But I never learned how bad it was with. I did not learn until roughly 10 years ago what happened with the fall of the Republic of South Korea. No, of South Korea, South Vietnam. Shit, I forget which one it was now. Vietnam, I think. Because there.
Saigon fell.
Yes. Because of a report that was done on NPR on the radio. And then I went looking it up to find out one of the saddest things that I had ever learned, because I never learned this in school. Really quickly. With the fall of the Republic of South Vietnam. That was the name of it, the Republic of South Vietnam. There was the Battlestar Galactica equivalent of every capable boat will carry people out of the country as quickly as possible in the dead of night, bailing some of these vessels out as they're going. And they made best speed. And it's 10 years later that I learned this, and this thing still kills me. And they were turned away from... God, I forgot which... I forget... I forgot which country it was. It was a country of just isolated... isolated islands. Singapore? I forget who the hell it was, but it was ruled by somebody who basically said, "Look, I'm not letting you in here flying the flag of Southern Vietnam because I don't want to piss off the new owners of the place." So they struck the colors on the ships. They lowered the flags on all of those ships and replaced them with American flags. And as a people, one last time, they sang the national anthem. That was where Vietnam, that was where the Republic of South Vietnam ended. Not on dry land, but on isolated ships that were the last vestige of that country. And to this day, I cannot fathom for myself how that could have possibly been.
Yeah, my husband was drafted to go over there and did 2 tours.
I never learned about that in school. I had to learn about this as an adult.
Over it, and he never will.
No.
And he can't talk about it. I know that he got a Purple Heart. I didn't even find that out until a couple of years ago, because he just does not talk about it. And all I knew is that around 3 o'clock in the morning, he would just suddenly sit up and say, "Sarge, they're here," and that's all he would say. And then he would go back to sleep. And he has PTSD from it, but he was told, to not say anything, and he could go to prison for saying anything. And so after not saying anything for all those years, when he tried to go in therapy, he could not talk about it. He still can't.
And these are things people have to hold for good. I bring this kind of stuff up because we learn the history that is good enough in a lot of places. The old history is written by the victors. It's true. But the problem of it is, if there are people that simply are so entrenched in the beliefs before that they don't want to learn, we end up exactly where we're going with these cults that want and want and want at the complete detriment of everyone else, including the society itself. And they're either so blind that they don't see it happening, or they're so selfish that they don't care.
Selfish.
And
And I'm worried that we're going to have a protracted civil war here, and it's not going to be, like what we had before. It's going to be, random attacks and kind of, guerrilla warfare kind of things. And it's real easy to kill people when you're conditioned to see them as the other, or you compare them to vermin, or make them seem less human.
how many years have you been talking about that, Joe? Where it's us versus them, it's about the other, and as soon as you got that, it makes all the difference in the world to make it easier to do exactly that.
I don't quite get you.
You've
Talked
had
about tribalism.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, it it's always repetitum ad infinitum, but it comes down to either it's something really 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 deep in human instinct. Um, you either learn to judge the world around you for yourself, for the value it has to you, or one continues to let the quote unquote elders or authorities do it for you. And that makes all the difference. I mean, if somebody has never learned to think for themselves, to judge the value of things for themselves, and they depend on, whatever is being parroted by their entourage and is being said by their leader, they never learn to know the difference. Even if you tell them something different than what they quote unquote know, they'll have nothing to compare to. It's basically, I know I'm repeating myself, but there's a point in our lives where we're supposed to make the leap, quote unquote, to independence and accountability that comes with that. But most people nowadays are, I don't know what the right word is, engineered to not make that leap. It makes them utterly programmable. And there's a quite few, the higher up you go. Well, there's a few people who are, and all through history, by the way, there are a few that are quite aware of that, and they've just exploited the fuck out of it. And it's still happening today, as by everything you've indicated, Trump followers and all that.
Yeah. Stephanie, just to put this one here, yeah, I'm. Before I read it, I just want to say I really, really hope that your insight is correct. Really hope so. Stephanie written over here, standing outside looking in, I do not see a civil war in the U.S. Those hearings are helping. So is the GOP's removal of rights. The voting in November will be interesting. The fact that that a lot of them are simply saying the inside thing outside is really bringing it home for a lot of people that otherwise would not have been interested enough to vote. Interested might not be the right term for it, but motivated. There we go. Motivated enough to vote. Because remember, here in the US, we don't have compulsory voting. It's, whoever makes it. And it's not compulsory because there is a First Amendment thing about, compelled speech, which would be viewed as, well, you can't tell me what to do. Although in Australia, my favorite thing of it is, yes, I can go into the voting booth, I can turn in a blank form if I otherwise didn't want to vote, because that's how I wanted to vote, and what are they going to do? But
you have to show up.
But you do have to show up. But here we don't even have that much. So when people go in to vote, and Lord knows, I have been. My little one is very proud to do it whenever it's come up now.
Yeah, but only something like 23% of the population even vote.
I don't think it's that low as a national average, but it is not nearly high enough.
I can tell you this much. There's a bunch of pissed off women here, and there's going to be some backlash.
Damn straight. Across the country.
Every time you see, the hashtags resist or blue crew, that's us.
Oh, yeah.
And we're pissed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't have the same reproductive systems. I don't have the same worries because, I live over here in New York State. But you can rest assured I have very, very much a blue voter, is the best way of putting it, for quite a while at this point.
No, I have been since 2010. Like at the state level, I used to take a lot of time and study candidates and what their positions are and all that stuff months ahead of time. And the last time that I voted for a Republican, I voted for Richard Lugar because he did an excellent job as, one of our senators. And when he got primaried by Richard Murdoch and lost, that floored me. And so now I just do straight ticket. And the only bad thing about that here is that there's so many offices that are blank for me because nobody's running except for GOP. There was one primary that I went to, I think it was 2018. There were 2 candidates on my ballot that I could vote for. That was it. 2. So if the office is unopposed, I just don't vote. I'll skip that race.
Yeah, I'm still awake.
Okay. You've just been unnaturally quiet for a while.
I'm pulling a Brigid Fitch.
You're sandbagging. Okay. I was just concerned. Just glad that I didn't have to worry about muting you.
We're speaking of voting. Every once in a while, I'll watch different late night shows. Maybe I can't sleep, things like that. Maybe I don't feel like putting on a 30-minute Netflix clip or something, or listening to a book, or reading a book. So I watched Stephen Colbert one night, and he had mentioned that there was a poll done, and of the people polled, 68% were willing to vote for a third-party candidate. I was like, that'd be interesting if they told us how many people were in that poll, Was it a sample size of just 100 people, so 68 out of 100 people That's not a big deal. Kind of, sort of, but not really. On the other hand, if the votes came in were like of 1 million people, sure, there's 330 million people in America, but you're doing a sampling of 1 million, you're going to get some demographic spread, and 68% becomes a very significant number. People are being forced to be reminded of something that our forefathers told us. Beware a two-party system. Don't, have a two-party system. We need to avoid that. And what do we have? We have a two-party system, and we're seeing the pain and suffering of it because of it. And I was Brigid talking reminded me that, I haven't always voted for a Democrat. Even if I registered as one, back when I was in high school, I haven't always voted for a Democrat for various reasons. And, for example, I voted for Gary Johnson at one point when he ran for one of the presidential elections under the Libertarian Party, because I liked his no-nonsense approach and his common sense approach to how he did business as a governor. And what he was able to do was he was able to take a deficit and turn it into a positive by cutting government where government was redundant. But he helped people find jobs. Those he cut, he warned. It's like, hey, look, I got to cut this, but I'm going to help you find work. He actually was getting ready for an interview. He was in the car. There was a news reporter. They were going to do an interview. There was a raging fire going on. He jumped out of the car. His wife jumped out of the car, and they put out the fire that was somebody's lawn had caught on fire, and they put it out. And they hadn't done it for the press. They'd done it because that's just who they were. And when the press was trying to, was like, not now, not now, not now. It's like, this is not a photo shoot. This is somebody's home. It's more important. And he cut the localized spending on things that didn't need it. He refocused on things that really did need it. I honestly thought he would have made a good president. He got a decent amount of the vote, but not enough. There are plenty of people out there that are worth the vote. But we have this fear of, well, if we don't vote for the Democrats, the Republicans will win. And the Republican side has, if you don't vote Republican, then the Democrats will win. You can't vote along third-party lines because the other side will win. And that's something that's being ingrained to ensure that the two-party system stays put. People are starting to realize they don't have to. No, they don't. If enough of us don't vote for either side, then neither side can win. If we make the third win,
Sorry,
yeah.
I was going to say I was talking about midterms, and it is a little higher than what I thought. It's like 30. Looking here, 36.4% will vote in the midterms. I mean, that's just pitiful.
Yeah.
We
Joseph?
should be seeing 95%.
Joseph, go ahead.
Yeah. In the past, well, actually, what's going on now is everybody not voting. And in most circumstances, it's the... let's just say it's not the most favorable candidate that wins in those cases. Because, people who survive by imitation, they're being told to go out and vote. Look at the evangelicals and the percentage of them that vote, and compare that to the national average. And you're already going to see something, and they're voting exactly how they're told. And this is what's going to happen if nobody votes. And this is what's happening.
Yeah. He's not wrong. The church and the religious groups are really good at organizing voting drives. Get out there and vote, otherwise the baby Jesus will cry.
Never
Yeah.
mind that it's completely illegal.
Well, no,
Yeah.
it's not illegal to say get out there and vote. It's illegal to say for a church to support a particular candidate or even political policy, as long as they want to retain their tax exempt status, which I think the IRS really needs to freaking crack down on.
They need to.
Yeah, thanks for that one, Mr. Reagan. But
But they're all being told that if you vote for a Democrat, you're going to go to hell. So.
and there are legislators that have been putting into place legislation that says that groups outside of religious organizations who carpool, for lack of a better way of putting it, people in for voting, who hand out water to people that are waiting in line because they don't have enough voting booths to handle the rush, that people like that are going to be arrested for poll interference or whatever, have the bullshit thing going on. So they don't necessarily need to be making it more difficult for voting districts. They can just go ahead and have attrition happen because people don't want to show up because we don't have enough voting booths. We got to wait for 3 hours as a minimum, and we're not allowed to have water. People aren't allowed to give us water. I mean, what the hell?
In some places, it was taking as long as 8 hours. And
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to stand in line for 8 hours and miss a whole day of work?
On a day where it's not a national vacation day, for fuck's sake.
I mean, it should be, but and this is happening in districts that are minority districts, and that's on purpose because most minorities that are not, Latino will vote for Democrats.
And with good goddamn reason.
Yeah.
Do you need?
Sorry,
Do you
go ahead.
need government? Do you need government? If one wanted to start a national referendum, that has to be started by the government, or how does that work?
Guess that depends on what the referendum was supposed to be about.
Yeah, well, like take, for example, abortion. If that was to be open to a national, instead of individual laws being voted on by corrupt senators, it was open to a referendum. If there was a referendum open on the question, could that happen?
That won't happen.
Well, wait a minute. Wait.
Could that happen?
Academically speaking, at a federal level, something like that, speaking academically on this one, would probably be one of those shoot for the stars item and go for a constitutional amendment. We've already had one in this country for banning alcohol. I have no reason to think that it couldn't be tried for abortion. I mean, come on. But it would have to
I'm
be...
talking about referendum to get an idea of the actual national opinion on something before any law is enacted. I mean, to get just to get what do the people want? Because we have a few key people who, for the most part, actually, anytime I hear a population, anytime I hear a politician say what the Americans want, red flag for me already.
No, you got a point.
Yeah, because how do I fact check that? What can I compare that claim to? And if there was to be opened a referendum on a certain subject, like a hot button topic, we would know.
Well, we can't do that here. In order to have a constitutional amendment added, we have to have
I'm
three-fourths
not.
of the
I'm not
states.
talking. I'm not talking about a constitutional amendment.
No, what you're talking
I,
about is actually getting a poll that figures out what it is that the population wants.
yeah, and this may exist already. I don't know. I'm just putting the question out there.
It will
There,
connect to states' rights.
to the best of my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, each state has a way of putting a state's referendum in one of the election cycles.
We can't. It's illegal in Indiana. Our state constitution says so.
Well, hold on a second, because let me finish through this and double check to find out if it would be. But that's the kind of thing where, at least over here in New York, if it was something that was put out. Oh, okay, wait a minute. Wait. I'm going bass backwards on this. There isn't. The closest way of doing something like that would be to have actual polling done by
Pew.
Pew would be good, but even them, I think it would be. Wow. How far out would you have to go?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, because the way that I was thinking about it was, if for instance, if New York State had put something into the legislature that was going to be a statewide law that was going to be put into place, they would put it into the election cycle on the ballots. Do you support? Do you vote yes or no to the proposition of blah, whatever it is? The biggest problem I've got with those is that they're always written in such a way that it's like a tongue twister for your eyeballs trying to follow along the methodology that they describe it. But there's no way of using that as a way of polling something, because it would be a yes no on a single proposition. So yeah, I was thinking about the whole damn thing in a completely wrong way. Wow.
Yeah, I guess you'd almost have to invent a new organization. Because is Pew exempt? Are they can they be trusted? That's all.
Generally speaking, from what I know, yes. Generally
Okay.
speaking. But the problem is, would you want to do it at a national? Would you want to do it by each county checking their own people, each state checking their own people? I mean, congressional districts, how who should do it, to what extent? How do you judge who does where? Pew, generally speaking, does a really good job of getting a decent sample size from a variety of areas, with, from what I've understood to date, as reasonable and as minimal a bias as possible. But shit, that is a really major league question that I don't think any of us have really got a good answer on.
Yeah.
I would put it up for popular vote, not by states, but just have it as if we could just go by, who all votes and whoever gets the most votes, here you go.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean by referendum also as well.
No, I get you.
Sorry. Somebody posted a little tweet saying they don't need to fingerprint all the documents. If there's crayon on them, it's Eric. If it's makeup, it's Ivanka. If there's Coke on it, it's Don Jr. And if it's covered in boring, it's Jared.
That's accurate.
I can't argue. I can't argue. We're at the top of the hour. We got to see about wrap it up over here. Really quickly on that one, then. For me, the idea that these individual papers are going to be fingerprinted, that is a laborious process. And from what I remember, after a certain amount of time, it's incredibly difficult to get the traditional fingerprinting system done. So those of you that are wondering how do you get fingerprints after, who only knows how many days or weeks later, you don't understand the level of technology these people have got. If they're scientists that can use specialized X-ray equipment to read parchment from Pompeii that is just basically ash and read what's on them, they can find these. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear what comes of it all.
I do want to point out something that we may not hear results within a reasonable time, what we would normally consider a reasonable time period for standard document fingerprinting. For the simple reason being that the people who are going to have to perform the fingerprint analysis are going to be doing this on material that's potentially top secret, which is higher than secret material. And if they're not read in on it, they're not allowed to look at it.
True.
So they'll have to find people with the expertise, the technical know-how, the availability of the labs, and everything else. The lab might be in-house, that are read in, sign NDAs, go through all the background checks. I mean, if anybody who has ever gone through a background check just to obtain a secret level clearance, okay, remembers what it was like.
Yep.
You can imagine what going through a top secret background check is like, or a background check to obtain a top secret clearance is like.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I just went through a background check because they were going to put me in crypto. Seriously.
Yeah, but when they're going to put you in the crypto as a contractor or as military?
That was military.
See, there's a different standard there. If the only people that they can find, the best ones for the job, contractors, it's going to take a little while.
Well,
whereas if they're government people or military people, that might speed up the process a little bit.
Well, they sent letters and questionnaires to all of the neighbors where I used to live, my kindergarten teacher, all kinds of people, and everybody's like, "What'd she do? Is she in trouble?"
Yeah, I remember a buddy of mine was going for that level, and I had an interview by an NCIS agent. Really nice guy. I mean, he was like the very definition of a very polite and proper bureaucrat. If you had told me that this guy had the authority to wield a gun and use it and arrest people and do all that fun stuff, I would have never believed you. He was so mild-mannered and everything else. I've met him a few times since then. Great guy. Really good at his job.
See, all those acting classes finally pay off for him. We don't have.
Honestly, I would never want to see this guy in any kind of situation where it required him to belt a gun to his hip and have to use it, because it's just some people shouldn't have to be put in that situation. No, in fact, nobody should ever have to be put in that situation. In my,
There is that.
we can do better.
I do know that when they were talking to me about that. See, I went in open general, which if you're going to enlist, that's not really the best idea because they could really, put you anywhere. But they had asked me if I would be okay being isolated and not speaking to my family again for 4 years. And I was like, okay,
Don't
sure.
threaten me with a good time.
Wow.
Only reason why I didn't go into crypto is because I ended up breaking my ankle when I was in basic training. So I lost the slot.
Well, damn.
Yeah, well, it sent me back 6 weeks and they needed somebody quicker, so.
Yeah. Joseph, any last that you got before I have to go ahead and close this up here?
No. No, nothing, Dad.
Makes it easy. Then we'll just go ahead and call it here because I'm starting to get a little bit tired myself. So everybody, thank you very much for being with us, as always. Hope that you had yourself a fun time with us and you got something to think about for the week ahead, which, Lord knows, this week kind of meandered a little bit, but I mean, considering, I don't know that it's necessarily meandering too far off the beaten path on this one. So, anyway, Stephanie, and I don't know what happened to Phyllis. She might have fallen asleep over there. Wouldn't surprise me, but be that as it may, thank you, of course, as always. And thank you for, pointing out stuff for us when you got stuff, man. Thank you. Really do appreciate that. Joseph, you have yourself a good week, I hope. Please stay safe and enjoy the morning.
Oh, well, you, no, I can't say this. I can't say you too, sir. Yeah, well, enjoy the morning. It's like midnight there.
Well,
But
yeah.
you all take care. Sweet dreams.
I appreciate it. Tech, you too, man. You take care of yourself and please be safe this week.
Yeah.
Will do.
See, said it before. Tech and me, we don't talk often outside of stuff, but we get each other.
Mm-hmm.
Brigid, you too. You take care of yourself, cause stuff and wow. How do you narrow down this week to try to pick just one? I don't know that you have to.
I can't pick just one. I'm just going to give a big fuck you to all these, I'm going to call them treason weasels, who are threatening, FBI and feds and want to impeach Merrick Garland. Just fuck y'all.
As a resident furry in the group, treason weasel.
I like it.
Yeah, I don't know that it's a wrong one.
I mean, they're not guilty of treason, but I'm talking about the Sedition Caucus.
No, I got you.
They call themselves the Freedom Caucus, but they're really the Sedition Caucus.
Yeah, well, I can call them.
I'm going to call them treason weasels because I like the sound of it.
I'm on board with you over there. It's the way that it's going to be. They can call themselves whatever the hell they want. It's their actions that determine what the rest of us remind us of for them. Yeah, I am starting to run down. God, that was not nearly enough coffee for the day. Damn.
And Kevin McCarthy, I hope they throw him under the bus and back up and go forward again and back up repeatedly.
Yeah, I'm go with that. And just for the hell of it, I'm gonna throw in one more that people are gonna kind of go, well, wait a minute, why would you pick? I will add the turtle to the mix. Because
Ever since 2010, yes.
Were it not for that son of a bitch, we would not be where we are in a lot of ways.
Moscow Mitch?
The very
that
same.
one.
So, you all have yourselves a good week. If you'd like to be in touch with us, of course, all the information is over at holycrapthevlogcast.com. The phone number, if you'd like to leave a voicemail message, is 859-HCTV-554, 859-428-8554. I have to use the phone number again before Google takes it away. Pain in my ass. I know. We get it for free, so I got to do something with it.
You want me to call you?
Sure, you can go ahead.
Actually, all you have to do is send a text message or two to it, and that'll keep it alive.
You know, maybe what I should do is every once in a while I should call like Fair and Balanced or you know, some of these other YouTube guys just to put the word out every once in a while and just say, hey, we're listening to you. I don't know. We'll figure it out from there. I don't know what else that I can tell everybody. School seasons are starting. Please be mindful. Please be careful. Remember, if you're in an area where there are school buses, whether they have a stop sign that pops out of the side or not, the flashing red lights mean you stop. Period. End of story. Nothing more. You want to drive yourself into a tree and hurt yourself, that's your business. Don't hurt these kids. In any case, we do need to get out of here. So, thank you for being with us. We'll catch you all again come the end of the week when we do this all over again. So until that time, as always, I wish you the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And my lady, it should have been 52 years, you know? I am still in love. Matane Fujin, I love you. I miss you. You dream of me. And until the next time we're together, everyone, as always, good night.